Broadcasting from an undisclosed location under a farm pond somewhere in the Midwest. Your host is Jim Crowley. This is Slickfish Radio. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Slickfish Radio. That's right, we are live. Last one for the year. And we're going to end it with a bang today. Pretty excited about this one. We got Denny Brauer as our guest tonight. We thank our friends from Shields. Oh man, if you haven't been to the Shields in Springfield, I am telling you, the store is decorated beautifully for Christmas. It's just crazy nuts over there. I was in there last week, and such great deals on fishing and hunting supplies and everything. Hey, it's Shields. It's just an awesome place. Our friends at Lure Parts Online had a great Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales there, and just a lot of good stuff going on there. They are fully stocked, so if you need some last minute Christmas gifts, I don't think anybody ships faster than We're Parts Online. So they are great to have on. Our friends over at Cast King, whole bunch of sales going on for Christmas still over there. So make sure you go check out things at Casking. We got a lot of great stuff in the works with them for season 3 of Jim Crowley Outdoors on Wired to Fish TV. Vance Gordon, my buddy, just chimed in. Elvis is in the house. Well, you know, Vance, I'm glad to see that. That's great. Also, our friends at Mudhole. We've been doing a lot of great TikTok videos lately with Mudhole on rod building. And so we're excited to have them along as well. And those guys had a great live the other night. It was fantastic to watch. Always great quality stuff from Mudhole. And we are powered, as always, by our friends at Dakota Lithium. 11-year warranty. Nobody stronger, nobody lasts longer. And thanks for Dakota Lithium. Actually, the first one to hop on here when we decided to do Slickfish Radio. So we are thrilled to have all of them and thrilled to have all of you tonight. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to chime in at any time. Without further ado, I'm going to bring in our guest who I've been looking forward to, Mr. Denny Brauer. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Jim. Thank you.
Well, it is great to have you, and what a fantastic backdrop back there. I love the mountain lions and elk, everything going back there, everything in the background going on back there. I don't see any big monster bass, but you live in Texas, so you're probably catching a lot of those on pretty much a regular basis, aren't you?
That's the reason I moved down here.
That's right. I mean, how long have you been down there now? Because you were in Camden, Missouri for years, and when did you officially move down to Texas?
We built this as actually going to be a winter home and fell in love with the area and decided to make it a full-time home. So it's been about 12 years, I guess.
That's awesome. That's awesome. One of the things I want to bring up, just you've been the guy that I have watched in my young career when I started tournament fishing back in '91, and for some reason you became a favorite quickly when I was growing up and watching Bassmasters all the time, and then you went over to went over to the other series there at the end. But I watched so much stuff happen with you, Bassmasters with the Superstars tournament, and then winning the Classic in '98. It was just really cool. You've had a lifelong of just some great memories. I'm just going to read some stuff off here. If anybody's been living under a rock and they don't know some of the accomplishments of this man, if I'm not mistaken, 18 tournament wins, 89 top tens. You're both in the bass fishing and the freshwater Hall of Fame. What else? You were on Letterman's show twice, which I don't know how that happened. That was the only reason I watched that show. Just letting you know, it's just because you were on there. But my favorite one is you were the first on the Wheaties box, and I thought that was so cool when that happened. There's a lot of highlights. From and if I remember right, way back when you started as a bricklayer, and I was in construction in the early years too, and then you just got into fishing. How did that? If we can go back that far, how did that all turn about where you're like, hey, I want to do this?
Oh, boy, that does go back a long, long ways. It was, I was actually a union bricklayer for like 13 years, and you'd work hard for several months, and then it'd get cold out, and you'd lose everything that you had made up to that point. And I decided I wanted something a little bit better, and had an opportunity to a fishing tournament on Lake of the Ozarks. Drive down there from Nebraska, where I lived at that time, and next thing I knew, I was doing it full time.
Yeah, and you got into it pretty quick. Matter of fact, I remember when you were doing shows on Newton Lake because I know you knew Tab Walker when he owned the place, and I'd actually fished a tournament with Tab back many years ago, and he ended up selling the place. But I used to watch that show all the time, and you guys had a lot of great. That's still a very good lake, and I remember you guys having just some absolutely I think you're really watching some of those episodes of your of Brauer bass battles back in the day. I think you really kind of brought to light how great Newton Lake was back in the day, and it's still really good. And I'm sure you had a lot of fun filming those shows, didn't you?
It was an awesome place. Tab was a great host. We just got a lot of work done in a hurry there because you could get a lot of bites, and it
Sure.
was places because it was a power plant that you could go in the wintertime and have warm enough water. I remember one show we did, it was snowing out, and we were catching them on a buzz bait. So, it was crazy, but just the fact that we could get a lot done there when it was hard to get something done anywhere else because of the weather made
Mhm.
it a place that we went quite often.
Where we're back in the now, how long have you been quote unquote officially retired now, or retired from steady tournament fishing?
Oh gosh, I guess probably about 6, 7 years. I
Wh-
don't know if you ever totally retires yet.
Right.
I think you just kind of pick and choose what you want to do a little bit better. I'm still pretty actively involved in the industry, still working for a lot of the same sponsors that have been with me basically my whole career. And I still fish some local stuff. I'm just not traveling all over the country anymore.
Sure. And I remember just way back in the day. I mean, you were with Ranger Boats almost pretty much from your start, weren't you? And Forrest and Nina Wood were just very good friends of you. Started. Can you go back that far and just say? And the reason I'm asking that is because I still think, even all these years after the industry, relationships are extremely important. And you build those. And anybody who is with a company for a long time, it becomes more than a professional working relationship. You get pretty close to some of those people. I know I've got a couple companies that I've been with for a very long time, and they're kind of woven into the fabric of your life. And did you? I'm sure you pretty much felt that way about Ranger Boats from back in the day, didn't you?
Absolutely. I always felt that I wouldn't even had a career without Forrest and Nina Wood. Uh, I was in the right place at the right time. I'd had some correspondence with them through the Nebraska Bass Federation. Had been fortunate to win a couple of the state tournaments up there, so I had a little bit of a relationship before I went to Lake of the Ozarks to fish that first tournament, and actually met them both there for the first time. And got approached after that tournament. I'd had a decent tournament, and if I was interested in fishing some more, and I guess the rest is kind of history. They jumped on board as a sponsor, and gosh, that was 50 some years ago. I've never run another bass boat other than a Ranger. I
That's
went from,
incredible.
I went from a 12-foot John boat to a brand new Ranger boat. So I got spoiled in a hurry, and in fact, I was just out today breaking in a brand new one that I just picked up, one of the new 521R boats, and so it's been a great relationship over the years. But I owe those people a ton of gratitude, and getting a sponsor like that on board early in your career just leads to
Oh,
more sponsors coming on board, and I'm very grateful for all the opportunities I've had.
you said you went, from a John boat to that. That's not just jumping up a stair. That's like jumping a whole darn staircase there, brother. I mean, that had to be, if you remember back that far, that had to be kind of overwhelming. And the reason I'm going to ask you some of these older questions is because you've always been one of the guys that I've looked up to growing up as my career in the outdoor industry has expanded. And so some people always ask me, how did you get your start? How did you do? And it was local club tournaments and things like that. And I got more into the media side of it, which I love because I love to fish all over the place. And but that can you remember back that far when you knew you were going to make that jump? what, because it was a completely different environment back then, right? And but when you did it, do you still remember kind of that feeling? You're going, man, I think this is going to happen. I think I'm going to do this.
Yes and no. I kind of worked into it gradually. There wasn't even a bass club in my hometown, and I had a guy that I worked with in the construction industry that was getting Bassmaster magazine, and I read a couple of those and ended up subscribing to the magazine myself, and that kind of piqued my interest in tournament fishing. So I started a bass club in my hometown, and we ended up winning the state federation event, and I ended up getting to go to the nationals and all that. And that's when I decided it was time to get to a little better boat than a 12-foot John boat that didn't even have anything but electric motor on it. But that kind of happened gradually. But I don't know whether you ever get to that comfort zone knowing that you're going to make a successful career change. I think it's something that just kind of gradually happens.
Hmm.
For me, I had a real good tournament. The first one I entered and felt pretty confident about what I did. And then the next one I totally bombed. So it kind of brings you back to reality, and you realize that it's going to be a lot of work to get to where you want to get to, and you have to take it very, very serious. And back in those days, there was only a half a dozen events a year, so you had to do something else to supplement your income. You weren't going to get wealthy off sponsors. You weren't going to get wealthy off tournament winnings. So I was a fishing guide in between tournaments, and that's how I kind of kept food on the table. And then in 1980, I started in April of 1980, and in 1984 they started to televise the Bassmaster shows, and
Hmm.
that's when the sport really started to gain traction. And I also happened to win my first event that year, and so it couldn't have been better timing. And of course, the sponsorships really started to blossom
Sure.
then, and it was just good timing for a career.
Yeah, and especially when you did back then, it was still a newer thing, even though it's basically race started at what, in the late '60s or early '70s, somewhere in there, or the idea came around anyway. But then to see it, and I remember watching that on TV because I was raised fishing. I think my dad had me in the boat at 3, but I don't remember the exact first time when I turned on and saw Bassmasters, but I just went, oh my goodness, I want to do this. I got into a bass club at like 22, and started meeting all those people and seeing the higher experience of anglers. And you go to regionals and you go to nationals and things like that. And I bet that had to be a little bit of a change from you too, coming from a bricklayer, going to, hey, maybe I can turn this into a career a little bit. And one of the things I always tell some of the younger anglers is, because I'm having the opportunity now to speak to a lot of high school and college anglers throughout the year. And I want to hear it from you though. It's developing those relationships. I don't care how old you get or how long you've been in a sport. Those are important fundamentals, because those are the relationships that are going to carry you through, even when you might have an off year. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I totally agree. And I think one area that anglers do make mistakes is they'll be going along and maybe not totally happy with their contract, or maybe they are happy with it.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden they have one of those banner years or win a special tournament, and suddenly they think they're worth a lot more. And they try to, hit that company up and get a lot more money for what they just did. But what you got to keep in mind is the next year may be a down year. Do you take a lot
Right.
less on a down year than you did on an up year? So it's a business relationship between the two of you, and you need to
100%.
that way. It's got to work for both parties. You don't get greedy. In the long run, you're going to be money ahead. Just to where both for making it work for both parties. Don't ever get to thinking that you're too big for that company and burn that bridge, because somewhere down the line you may be real disappointed. Believe me, over the years I could have switched boats a million times for more money, and in the long run I was money ahead by never doing that.
Yeah, and on top of that, you had that solid relationship in case it would have been a down year. And I don't care what anybody says, everybody has a down year from time to times, or years where you're not happy with your results like you were the year before. And that's just something that happens in fishing. And as many tournament wins as you had and as many classics as you made, there were still years, I'm sure, where you go, you know what, this wasn't as good as last year. I'm just going to have to buckle down. But building those relationships with those companies, those kind of help carry you through on the off years, doesn't it?
Oh, they really do, and that's what makes the sport fun. You have those good working relationships with the people at those companies. You work together to build new product, build better product, etc., and you move forward. Obviously, people change over the years. Companies do change. There's situations that can come up, but overall, I was real fortunate to be able to be with the same companies virtually my whole career, and they were great companies to start with. And I think that's the best advice you can give a young angler. If you're going to get associated with somebody, get associated with somebody whose product you truly believe in, because people see right through that. You know,
100%.
you're spitting out there that you truly don't believe in. So make it good products to start with.
Yeah, I mean, you've been with Strike King for I I don't even know how long, and I mean, I know I do remember back this far when you started with them, that jig line wasn't anywhere compared to what it is now, and I know you're not the only one, but I know you had a lot to do with it. And I've told some of the younger kids when I work real closely with a couple companies that I've been with and been with for a long time. I said, you got to get past, and because I want to get your opinion on this, you got to get past but what you like. You know what's good for you, but you also got to work with the company and see how you can best benefit them. Is that one of the things you really enjoyed over the years, is being able to work? And obviously you must have, because you've been with a lot of them for a long time, but is that one of the process that you enjoyed about, they're like, hey, Denny, we need you to maybe look at this or look at that. And then they're relying on your expertise. Is that something that you look forward to when the opportunity arose?
Well, that's part of what you're being paid for. You've
Sure.
got to be something back. And yeah, when it comes to like striking with lure designing, I mean, that's a fun deal to be able to take your ideas and work with a couple of engineers and get the best of their ideas. And you finally end up with a product that you're proud of and that'll catch fish and it'll do what you intended it to do. And some of these projects look real simple on paper, but they can take up a year to finally get right. Even a piece of plastic. I remember the Rage Denny crawl when we started that project. I thought we'll whip this out in no time. Well, a year later, we finally had the action the way I wanted it, and I think I about drove them crazy on that. But it's been very, very rewarding. And some projects like the striking structure jig that
Yeah.
happened fast. We was able to get the head design that I wanted, where it fell the way I wanted it to do. It came through the cover the way I wanted it, and it's been a very, very successful item for a lot of years. And that's pretty rewarding when you have people come up to you and tell you the biggest fish they ever caught was on a bait that you played a part in designing.
Yeah, that because you just played a part in somebody's life by an idea that you had, and I don't think that can ever be overlooked. And that is just a really, really cool thing. I work real closely with Lure Parts Online, and we're working on a craw right now that, like you said, it's going back to the drawing board, so many times. And I right now I'm just grateful to be involved in the process. Um, and it is a cool process, especially when you put something out that other people like and they like a lot, and they start catching fishing on it, and you get a story or two or a bunch of stories about, hey, I used such and such, and it caught me a bunch of fish. And you've been doing that for a while with striking. How many years now have you been with them? It's quite a few.
I can't even tell you exactly when I started, but I can tell you this: the original owner is who hired me, so that goes back a lot. uh, it's been a great, great relationship, and uh, it's kind of funny. My good friend John Barnes, who I'm sure you know, who was the owner of Striking for a lot of years, we actually drew out in a tournament on Toledo Bend, and he was leading the tournament. It was day two when he drew me, and he was scared to death that I was going to drag him off somewhere, and I go try to win this tournament. And we became really good friends. And little did I know that several years later, he'd actually become the owner of Strike King. And we're still really good friends. We do a lot of hunting and fishing together. And those are relationships, you just can't put into words. They're just awesome.
No, you know that now that you said that, I have a relationship like that with several of the companies I work with, and you're right. It almost to me, it almost gives you more of a I want to make sure that I do better for that company or do the best of my ability because not only do they trust me as a business partner, but when they start trusting you as a friend, I think you have more in the game. You have more at stake there because you want your friends, and in some cases, as long as you've been with some companies, they become family. You want your family to do well. Regardless of what people think, fishing is a business. As much as we enjoy to go out and do it, still to have successful products out there and to make those companies successful, that's part of what the job is when you're in your position or because there's some weight on your shoulders there. It's just, I really want these people to do good, but when you can work together with them, you're a great example that it's blossomed into a relationship that hasn't lasted years, it's lasted decades. Do you feel the same way?
Oh, absolutely. Part of the job is obviously to help develop good product.
Right.
The other part of the job is to promote that product. So it's got to go off the shelves too. So it's a hand in hand relationship, but it all goes back to surround yourself with good people. You surround yourself with good people, you're going to work a lot harder for those people.
Now, you ain't a kid in there. I'll tell you what, we're gonna take a quick break and we're gonna come back and we're gonna dive into I want to dive into jig fishing a little bit. Obviously, I want to talk about a color that you're maybe not familiar with, black and blue. Um, and just so we're just gonna I hope everybody realized that was just a joke. That was a flat out joke. I think the only person or the main person who made black and blue famous was Denny Brauer. But anyway, so we're going to go back. We're going to be back in what I like to say is 2 and 2. I think Chuck Woolery used to say that. And we'll be back with Denny Brauer right after this. Located in Springfield, Illinois' largest selection of sports and sportswear, hunting, fishing, specialty shops and services, a 65-foot Ferris wheel, 16,000-gallon saltwater aquarium, and industry-leading knowledgeable employees. You don't take chances at Shields, ever. Go to shields.com. At Lure Parts Online, we have everything you need to make your own lures. Pour soft plastics, tie your own flies, build your own rods, and more. Easy ordering ensures you get your products quickly. You can build it all with Lure Parts Online. Achieving affordable innovation through novel concepts and in-house ingenious designs. Cascade cost-effective e-commerce practices directly market to consumers, cutting costs by 30% or more on average. Affordable innovation, superior quality. CastKing.com. Mudhole is your #1 resource for custom fishing rods. Mudhole is the world's largest supplier of rod building, tackle crafting supplies, and instruction. They have the best components and brands you trust. American Tackle, MHX, CRB, Pro Products, Fuji, REC, AFCO, Winthrop, and more. It's easy to build your next custom fishing rod at mudhole.com. Believing quality is measured by lifespan and harnessing their unique chemistry and engineering know-how. Dakota Lithium lasts 4 times longer, powering your passion with an 11-year warranty. Find out more at dakotalithium.com. There we go. Come here. Get in here. Yeah, nice fish right there. Hi, I'm Jim Crowley. Make sure you catch my show, Jim Crowley Outdoors, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, exclusively on Wired to Fish TV. Look for Jim Crowley Outdoors on Wired to Fish TV on free ad-supported streaming TV, including Plex, that can be downloaded in the App Store at Apple TV, Roku, Samsung, and others. We are back live with one of my favorites, no doubt, probably my favorite bass fisherman of all time. I'm just glad he's with us, and that's Denny Brauer. And you and I have a couple friends in common. I know you've heard of a guy by the name of Terry Brown. I thought I'd bring Terry's name up there, and Todd Hamill. Just saw them recently at ICAST and everything like that. And I know you were kind of involved. I remember seeing Wired to Fish on your jerseys way back in the day, and so you know those guys, and what a thing they have become, especially going as far as fishing knowledge goes for the generations. And I think that's just something that they just keep expanding on, and it's turned into quite a project, hasn't it?
It really has. Those are both great guys and good friends. We've had a lot of fun over the years and been able to work together on a lot of projects. But they have really done the fishing industry a big plus by everything they put out there, all the educational material, etc. And they're truly the voice of the outdoor industry.
Yeah, you're right. Actually went to the place in Minnesota this past summer and stopped in and talked to Todd a little bit, just picking his brain on certain things and everything. And both him and Terry have been so. I've known Terry since I started my tournament career. I think this is my 31st year in the industry now. And I've known Terry for just about all those years. And he's always been really good about just being able to help people out. And I think that's one of the reasons Wired to Fish got so popular and is so massive today, as these are guys are just constantly putting out good information all the time, and it's nice to see people that work that hard be successful, isn't it?
It really is. Terry, he's one of them guys that don't quit working. He
You
just
don't.
always angle, and he tries to help a lot of other people out. He's done a lot for my career over the years. Just find people, and they had a great idea and they ran with it, and it's been very successful.
Yeah, that is for sure. Now, one of the things I want to talk to you about is we were talking before we went on air about you winning the classic, and just the Megabucks tournament always stuck out in my mind. I'm going to go way back some years, because that's always the image. Whenever I see your picture or see some, I always think of you holding that fist up in the air when you caught that 7 pounder off the boat dock. And I don't remember if it was 7.2 or 7.3. Now I may even be a little off on that, but I remember when that happened. And that at that point in my life, that was the biggest bass I've ever seen come off a boat dock. And I remember back then going, God, I've got to get better with a jig. I just, now it's one of my absolute favorite things. It has been for years and years, one of my favorite things to do. But I want you to go back again, and I apologize for going back, because I'm as curious for myself as I am for the audience. Is what made you settle on that black and blue jig, or do you remember when you first picked up a jig and all of a sudden you went, "Hey, I might make $5 with this." When did that when did that do you remember back when that started?
Actually, I was pretty much a spinnerbait fisherman for a while. I got to studying tournament results that had happened over the first few years of the Bass Masters, and a lot of the big fish of the tournaments were being caught on a jig. And that was about the time where the creel limits were starting to decrease. They were 7, and then they went to 5, and you're going to have better quality fish if you're going to win events. And I thought, if I'm going to fish for 5 fish, I'm going to use the bait that appeals to big fish, and that's the jig. And I just kind of ran with it. You don't use it every tournament. Obviously, you
Sure.
got to incorporate some other baits. But if you're going to have one bait that truly is your confidence bait, I think I was real lucky in picking the jig. And over the years, colors kind of develop. I know when I first started to fish a jig, it was nothing like what we have right now. They were, hair jigs, and they had totally different type of weed guards on them. And I think a straight black is what I started out fishing, with a black pork frog on behind it. And then the black and blue just kind of evolved. And I can remember black and blue got so hot there for a while that we couldn't keep them on the shelves like at Walmart. I don't know how many pegs we had, but the black and blue pegs would always be empty. And so I told them guys, I says, we need to develop more black and blue type colors. So we had a black blue flake, we had a black blue accent, we had all these different black and blue colors, because they would all be empty immediately. People just absolutely gravitated to that color. And one of the biggest reasons was it caught a lot of fish in all different types of water clarity.
Yeah, and no matter where you go, I was just talking with high school anglers a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about jigs a little bit, and I said, there's a lot of colors out there, and I'll throw just about every one of them as long as they're black and blue and green pumpkin.
Yeah,
And
those are really the two main colors. You got black and blue stained water, green pumpkin clear water, and muddy water. We got a color called Texas crawfish
yep.
that's got chartreuse in it. And I probably, between those three colors, that takes care of the majority of my jig fishing.
Now, is that being one of my favorite baits? I want to pick your brain a little bit. I'll Most of the time I'm throwing a jig usually, but and yeah, it depends on bottom composition and it depends on depth and everything. But 3/8 to 3/4 is my biggest, and I've really started fishing a 3/4 more in the summertime because I can fish the bait faster. And it's just it's worked well. The reaction bite in the summertime obviously is really good and can be really good with a 3/4 ounce jig. When you were doing this, you know, just that's what you were doing back in the day. Did you have what were your certain weights that you switched off for, or did you have one that I need a bite today? This is what I'm going with.
Well, when I was flipping and pitching, it was usually a 3/8 or a half.
Hmm.
When I get out on structure, it would be a 5/8, and that was about as heavy as I went to early in my career. Nowadays, like living down here on Lake Amistad, where I'm out fishing deep structure, it's a 3/4 ounce jig the majority of the time. And if I get in shallow cover, then obviously I'm going to lighten up to a half ounce. But I don't even carry 3/8 anymore, if that tells you anything. I
Jeez.
think these fish get so conditioned that you really got to concentrate a little bit more on the reaction type strikes and not let them get that good a look at it. And I think the heavier weight helps a little faster fall.
So when you're saying heavier weight like that, and I'm just talking because I know we're going to have some high school or college anglers watching this as well. And so, do you change the trailer on the back of your jig to slow or increase the speed of your fall? Is that and then where you're staying with those heavier jigs some most of the time?
Not so much to change the speed of the fall, but to change how active the bait is itself. In other words, in the colder water, I don't want a lot of action in that
Right.
bait. I'm going to go with a chunk style trailer on behind it, or something with a more finesse type vibration to it. Like that's when I'll use the Denny Craw as a trailer quite a bit. Or we got a new scround bug trailer that works pretty good too. But if the water's a little bit warmer, then I'm going with a rage crawl type trailer that's got a lot of action and really displaces a lot of water behind the bait. So it's kind of a water temperature based deal for me rather than worrying about the speed of the fall. I'm adjusting that obviously with the weight of the bait itself.
Now I remember just back in the day, just learning from you, and just for some people that might be watching that are newer jig fishermen, or that still is a bait that when I talk to people, they're intimidated by that. It seems like a jig and a jerk bait are two of your most intimidating lures out there. And I don't have that many colors that I choose from back and forth, like green pumpkin, black and blue, and there may be some other ones depending on the color, the water clarity, or depending where I'm at. Do you have like a range of maybe 3 or 4 colors that those are your confidence colors, and you're gonna fit them to the conditions, or are you gonna fit the conditions to your bait?
No, I'm always going to match the conditions. The number one thing is the water clarity itself. You get to the lake and look at the water. If you can see a couple feet down, I call that stained water. If you can see more than that, you're getting the clear water. Here, a lot of times we can see the bottom 12, 15 feet deep. That's super clear water.
Mhm.
That's where your natural colors like your green pumpkin come into play. But if you don't have much visibility at all, then I think you want to get something bright in your jig, like a little bit of chartreuse, and that's where that Texas pearl color comes into play. But you also got to consider your light penetration. Some colors work really good on sunny days, and other colors work really good on cloudy days. So if let's say I'm fishing a green pumpkin bait and it's sunny out, and all of a sudden it clouds up, maybe I need to make that change to a black and blue, go to a darker color.
Mhm.
Or if I've been catching them on black and blue and suddenly the sun comes out, then I need to go to a lighter color like a green pumpkin. So always keep those little things in mind. Keep the wind in mind. The difference between it being calm or being windy can also cut down on light penetration. So those little subtle things make a big difference when it comes to jig fishing.
Yeah, and I've always told people, and I think I learned this back from you years and years ago, that you're fishing a bait enough to sometimes when it doesn't feel right, set the hook. Because
Exactly.
there are just times when all of a sudden, and I think it's just you get in tuned with your senses, but I remember seeing you back. I don't know if it was bass classes or something like that way back in the day, but there was like 4 or 5 of you, or 3 or 4 of you at that event. Um, and I had a notebook, just I mean full, Denny. By the time I got done, listened to everybody and went back and and use those techniques afterwards. And one thing that I really remember about you talking with the jig is make sure when you pitch that jig that that thing is falling on a slack line. You want that, and I'm saying this for the benefit of some of the younger anglers that may be watching, as well as some of the guys who aren't that sure about a jig. That bait, and I want to hear it from you, but my take on it was that bait needs to fall on a slack line, because if it's not, it's going to pendulum away from the cover, and that's going to blow your cast. And initially, in some places, that first cast is the most important. Did I remember that right from what you taught me?
Absolutely, Jim. Falling on a slack line, it lets the bait fall naturally for one reason, but it lets it fall straight down into the intended strike zone that you're after. Whereas if you got that tight line, it ends up way away from that target, and I don't think it falls near as natural. Uh, some people go, "Well, I can't feel the bite on a slack line." Well, once you get it figured out, you'll feel that tick come up through that line,
Oh yeah.
especially with the good rods nowadays and fluorocarbon lines. I mean, it's not an issue at all. And you really need to focus on that line. A lot of times you'll actually see the line jump, see the strike.
Yep.
But yeah, very, very important. What I and I don't talk. I don't want to give people the wrong idea where they put a whole lot of slack in there. It's just a little bit of slack to where you're not impeding the fall, but not so much that you can't tell what's going on.
I remember learning from you that I still want to be in contact with the bait, but not in contact enough, is what you just said, to impede the fall of the bait. And
Yeah, you
so, yeah.
tell stop sinking, because a lot of times that'll be the only indication that a fish has got it. And so many people want to get into a feeling contest with these fish, and not a good idea. If anything's different, no matter what it is, if it feels heavy, if it feels too light, or it's doing anything strange, just crank down a little bit and set the hook. That's the fun part.
Heck yeah, and I might have heard this from you, but it don't cost you nothing. It may the most it's going to cost you is a lost jig or going into a tree. But I'd rather be wrong, and the next time around do it and have a 5, 6, or 7 pounder on the other end of it. Because is there? And now that I said that, I was thinking about, and I don't know if it was a Megabucks win, or there was a tournament though, that one we were talking about before I went on air, that you caught that 7 pounder off that boat dock. And I remember you turn around to the camera and holding your fist up like that. There's got to be certain fish that you remember. And is that one of them, or is there? Do you remember which one I'm talking about? Because that was probably you probably do. Do you remember that day a little bit?
I do. That was a fish that really helped me win that event. It was also a fish that the cameraman did a remarkable job on to capture that footage. That fish jumped so high, and why he didn't come off, I don't know, but luckily he did. And like I say, he played a big part in winning the tournament. But what was so cool about it, because of that footage, Bassmaster used it in their openings for years and years and years.
It did.
That that one fish, of all the fish I caught in my own career, probably got more exposure than all the rest of them put together.
You made that boy famous, or that girl famous. I mean, I remember it. I remember it vividly. Matter of fact, I was going through YouTube the other day and coming up on a tournament, and that's what jarred my memories, because I saw that. And you raising your fist up. You were on, if the boat is facing that dock, you were about the right side of that dock, maybe a little bit to the left of it. And I don't remember if you skipped that jig back underneath there or dropped it on a post, but I remember seeing you set the hook and then pulling that in, and your face got so solid when you pulled that in the fish. I don't know if you knew you won right there, but I think you probably had a pretty good idea that you were on your way to something pretty special.
Yeah, once in a while you catch one of those fish, and it gives you that special feeling that that's probably the one that put you over the hump. But you never know for sure. You keep grinding all the way to the end, no matter what.
Now, when you fished a little bit of the MLF events, and that was back when they kind of really started those. That was a different type of format too, though, because you kind of knew what guys were doing a little bit. I bet that does that play into it's got to play into your thinking a little bit, or even your strategy.
It's a good thing when you're the guy catching the fish. You're not that guy. I know the one I won up at New York, the major league event up there. I was the guy that was really having a hard time right off the bat. and I was watching them kind of pull away, and then all of a sudden the light bulb come on, and I got things figured out, and I really caught them good. And that kind of took the pressure off. But it's kind of nice to know when your lead's building, but it's not nice to know when your lead's disappearing. But that's just part of that game. That's part of what keeps it exciting. That's kind of a different format, and I enjoy all types of tournament fishing, whether it's five fish or all fish or whatever. It's just fun to be out there and compete.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I still enjoy doing it. I don't just with other things in the business, I don't do it as much as I did, but I still love it just as much for the 7 or 8 or 10 that I do every year. And you still get that, I still get that feeling about when you get in the boat, you're like, today's my day. I never lost that feeling. And when it goes right, then you can cast backwards, you can throw under your arm over your head, and stuff just goes right. And then there's those days when, well, today is not my day. And but those good days really keep you coming back for more, especially when you have things. And you were one of the first ones I remember back in the day talking about confidence. And for any of the young anglers listening, how I don't know if this is a roundabout way. How would you develop if you were a young angler? What would you say to them, or what would you say to a young angler about how to develop that confidence? Because I think that's almost more important than the colors we choose, or we need to have confidence in what we are doing. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. And I think to start with, you have to develop the work ethic. If you have a good work ethic, you know you're giving it everything you got out there, and you're fishing from daylight to dark. And I didn't want anybody to launch their boat before me, and I didn't want to have a trailer left in the parking lot when I took out. I figured if I couldn't outsmart them, maybe I could outwork them. But I think that type of work ethic just builds confidence. And I think the more success you have in your career, the more that helps build confidence too. But I think what's also very important is to have that belief in what you're doing, everything you do, every move you make, every piece of water you're fishing. Uh, at the end of the day, if you see a guy with 100 different baits laying in the bottom of the boat and he's got an empty tank of gas, well, there's no way he's probably going to win that tournament. But
Right.
you got to have the mindset that you're really only as good as your next tournament. I've
Right.
seen guys, have a bad tournament and that feeds to another bad tournament. Or I've seen a guy have a good tournament and boy, he may have another good tournament right off the bat. And then he'll have a bad one and he thinks, well, I just got lucky. He loses that confidence. And you got to kind of be able to compartmentalize a little bit and go, that tournament's over. What did I learn from it? Let's move to the next one. If it was a bad tournament or if I won the tournament, that's history. Don't just sit there and pat yourself on the back. I mean, because you can get humbled real fast in this sport.
Real fast. I remember back in the day, we'd fish Tuesday night tournaments or Thursday night tournaments. Okay, well, if you won on Tuesday night, you were fishing Thursday or Saturday again. That Tuesday night tournament don't matter no more.
Yep.
And it's on to the next one. And I will honestly say that I remember, and I bet you had this feeling too. There are certain tournaments that you'd get in that once you got your momentum going, it was going to have to take almost an act of God for something wrong, because you could almost feel where that next bite was coming from. And I watched you enough over the years to sometimes when you were on a tear, that was one of the biggest things that I remember the competitors freaking out is if he gets on that jig bite, look out, because I already knew your confidence was there. And so one thing I want to say about confidence, or ask you again, if you're talking to high school or college anglers, how would you, as an experienced and accomplished angler, how would you tell them to work on their confidence? Or is that something you can even do?
That's hard because it almost takes success to build that confidence.
Mhm.
But you can do it just out there fishing. The more you fish, the better you get with certain baits, the more fish you catch, you're going to develop confidence right there in your ability. And as long as you're continuing to improve your ability, uh, you're going to get better. Another good way to get better is try to fish with people that are better than you,
That's
not
right.
the same people day after day after day. And that'll help build confidence. But it's a fragile thing. You see it in all sports, not just bass fishing. It can come and go. You talk about getting in the zone. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. I think some of it is because success breeds more success. So how do you get to that magic place? Once again, I think it goes back to hard work and actually believing in your own abilities. And everybody's different as far as how they're built and with their mindset. And for me, I don't think you want to be cocky, but I never went into a tournament thinking that I wasn't going to win it. And even after practice, if I wasn't on to anything that I thought I could win, I would scrap everything and maybe run to an area of the lake I hadn't even been to before, try something totally different, thinking that maybe that first day I can kick things into gear and still win this tournament. Obviously, you reach a point in the tournament where maybe I need to salvage a few points to get the classic or something like that. You don't
Right.
need totally stupid, but yeah, if you want to win tournaments, you got to fish to win tournaments.
What do you, and that's right. That's a mindset you got to have. Is you have to believe that today is going to be your day. You have to believe that on every cast, because whoever wins, probably somebody was doing that. And if it ain't you, then you may not be the guy winning that tournament. Of all the ones that, and obviously the classic's going to stand out, but there a tournament? If I ask you right now, which one comes to mind? Which is one when you figured out you were going to win that one that you couldn't stop smiling? Just any one. Just what's the first one comes to your mind?
Probably the last one I won on the Arkansas River. It was it was one of them tournaments where the first practice day I actually locked up and I got stuck 3 times on sandbars by and Bill Lowen actually towed me off of 2 of them, so he was glad to when I told him I wasn't coming back to that pool at all because I just stuck again. Hackney helped me get off another one, so it was just a disastrous first day. I had nothing figured out. So we had a classic years and years before then that Ricky Clunt had won on the Pine Bluff pool. And I thought, I'm just going to jump in the rig tomorrow and trailer all the way down to Pine Bluff and fish in the harbor there and see if I can figure something out offshore. And I just started to go down the drops with a football jig, hunting for little shell beds and rough spots. And I had like 18 bites that day.
Ooh.
And I jerked on 2 of them. I had a 3 and a 4 pounder, and I shook all the rest of them off. And I come in, and I knew I was going to win that tournament to the point that I unloaded my boat. I unloaded all the stuff I didn't need out of my boat on day 3. Didn't even practice. Just got ready for the tournament. I knew exactly what I was going to do, where I was going to go, and ended up winning that tournament with basically that one day of practice down there.
Hey, you know what? When it works, it works. So, what's one of the things that you really enjoy doing now? I mean, you're still doing some research for some of the companies that you work with or product testing. What's one of your favorite after all these years now? What's one of the things that just stands out a little bit more that you go, I'm really looking forward to doing that tomorrow?
Oh boy, I just spend a lot of time here on the lake. Obviously, still testing product and working on product development, but not near as much as I used to. The neat thing is I can set my own schedule a little bit better.
Mhm.
You don't have all that travel time and all those demanding days where I felt that I really wasn't accomplishing anything, except looking at the windshield of a vehicle. So now I fish where I want to, pretty much when I want to. I can pick and choose promotions a little bit better. Still want to help the companies whenever I can, but I remember when I was doing 60 days a year doing seminars, and I'm not going to go back to doing that again. Obviously, I enjoy hunting during the season and doing different things like that, but I moved to Lake Amistad for a reason, and that's to chase them giant bass. Where I lived in Nebraska, a 5 pounder got you in the paper.
Right.
Moved to Missouri, if you caught an 8 pounder, it was awesome. Well, down here, they don't even think a whole lot about 10 pounders, so it's pretty awesome.
I would say because Nebraska was always good for ducks for me. That was about it. But what now that you're there, is your capacity or your thinking? How do I want to say this? The way you think about fishing, because you're fishing for in an area that is just bigger fish, and you have the ability and the capacity to be able to catch different fish. Is your mindset different than I think it would be, but maybe not. Is your mindset different than maybe when it was fishing? Hey, the Superstars tournament back in the Illinois River back in the '90s. So your capacity of thinking how you think about those fish has to be different on this type of water, doesn't it?
It is and it isn't. It's all relative to the body of water you fish. A 3, 4 pound fish on the Illinois River was going to
Huge.
gain you a lot of ground on the field. Where down here you may need a limit of those type of fish to even put a dent in things. But all lakes go through different changes. Like right now, we're 56 feet low on this
Woo.
lake, and it's fishing terrible. I mean, it's not fishing good right now. We need water bad in the Rio Grande Valley, so you got to kind of target things a little bit different. And right now, you're trying to get bites. When fishing's good here, you're just trying to go after those quality big fish, and so it's a little bit different depending on the conditions.
Now, what is your favorite time of year to fish? If you were like, hey, I'm today, I'm just going for a big bite. What would be the time of year that would be one of your favorites?
I have probably caught more double-digit fish down here January, February, and March in those 3 months during the wintertime, so to speak. But it varies. Last year, I caught two. I caught a 10, 4,
Whew,
and 11 pounder in June, and I never catch big fish like that in June.
geez.
And those fish were up in 2, 3 foot of water chasing brim. So it's crazy. You just never know when those opportunities are going to happen.
No, that's awesome. Hey, if people want to follow more of your social media, because you're putting stuff out there still, product reviews and things like that. Before I ask you that, what is new out there that you saw as one of the most experienced anglers out there? What is something new that really kind of you went, hey, that's different that I like.
Oh boy, nothing really jumps out at me. I just, like I say, been out breaking in a new boat the last 2 days, and that Minn Kota Quest trolling motor that I've got on my boat right now has got me just pretty excited. It's so quiet, you don't know whether it's even running half the time. So that was a big improvement. You just see those gradual improvements with
Right.
everything here. With baits, with the quality of the components that go into baits. You know that from some of your associations,
Yep.
how important that is. But as far as a single bait, I look at a bait like the Thunder Cricket, the vibrating jigs, how they've come on the last couple of
Oh
years. And
man. Yeah.
I've caught so many big fish on that bait here on this lake. It's really become one of my go-to confidence type baits, along with the jig, obviously. But as far as just saying one bait, that's hard for me to do because I got too many baits. I get confused.
Oh, that's for sure. No, that's awesome. Like I said, I've followed you for years. You're actually one of my favorites. One of the guys that I always looked up to, and I still love seeing the stuff out there because I still think even though you weren't one of the first guys in the sport, to me you always will be because you were the first one I think I identified with, and then seeing you at seminars over the years. One of the cool things that I always thought is you were so willing to share your knowledge and have a good time with it, and I think that's one of the things that I learned from you about when I go do a seminar somewhere is I have some fun with it because people are there because they want to learn more. And you were always very generous, just like tonight. You're always very generous with your time and with your information. And I sure always appreciated that over the years because there was so much that I learned and still learn from that. What is one of the last questions before I let you go because you've been more than generous with your time? Is what's one of the favorite things that you do now at this stage in your career? What is one of the things that you look forward to testing or doing?
Oh boy, I guess just a favorite activity in general. We do 2 weeks of kids camp every summer here on the lake, and to see those 12 to 18-year-olds out there, a lot of them that are desiring to take it to the next level, obviously get into college
Yep.
and get on these college fishing teams, etc. But eventually, maybe get into pro bass fishing, and to see how good they are at that age and how talented these young kids are, and how thirsty they are for that knowledge. That's just very, very rewarding. And I always said, all the trophies in the world, nobody's going to care about in 10 years. But a lot of people are going to care about the knowledge that you're able to pass on that'll make them better fishermen so that they can enjoy the sport. So I think everybody that's been successful in the sport, that's one thing they owe back to the sport is to pass that knowledge on, whether it's, doing videos or writing books or seminars or whatever it is, every opportunity you have, try to help somebody else become better.
And that is one of the reasons why you have always been probably my favorite. Just and I mean that because I learned so much from you. I remember thumbing through the pages of Bassmaster magazine when I was at work, when I probably should have been working. No, I know I should have been working, but I was because I was thinking about the weekend, about when I was going fishing next, and can I apply this lesson, and can I do that? And it's still fun seeing that in young anglers' eyes when you see those eyes light up, and they get it or they get the idea behind it. And I hope in some years' time that I'm exactly in a position where you are. We're still wanting to share your knowledge, which I think is a great thing. Of all the major accomplishments that you've had, one of the things I've always looked up to you about is that you were so willing to spend time and talk with people about it, because there is great things that can come from somebody who's good at it. And the better thing about that is that people can learn from that. And I just think that's really really cool. Denny, I appreciate you. You were very easy to get a hold of compared to some of the stuff that I went through, and I was thrilled to be able to have you on the show. And I hope if we do this again sometime that you'd be willing to come back. I know we both work in the industry. God willing, I plan on doing it a very very long time because I just enjoy the heck of it. I'm still like a kid in a candy store after all these years, and I'm betting you still have some days where it really makes you chuckle and laugh. And if people want to follow along with some of your stuff, where can they find you at?
We're always posting stuff on Facebook and Instagram, so that'd be the easiest.
Are you still going to iCast at all, or do you do that once in a while?
Yeah, it just kind of depends on whether I can get out of it or not. I really don't like going to Orlando. They go to Vegas, and I'll probably show up.
There's a good, honest man for you right there. All right. No, I totally understand. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking your time with you. Like I said, you've done a lot for me in my career over the year just by watching you and aspiring to be that good. And I the couple times that I'd met you before when I was much younger, you were just fun, enjoyable. You took your time with everybody, and I so really appreciated that. And whatever you're doing, I wish you continued success, because you will always, without question, be one of my absolute favorites. I appreciate you taking the time. I've learned a lot from you, and will still continue to do so. And I really do appreciate you taking your time um, to be on. I was really looking forward to, and what a great way to end the year uh, with a bang. So I just want to tell you, hey, God bless in your family. I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas, and thank you so much for spending some of your time with me and my audience today.
Well, you do a fantastic job with your show, Jim. And I really appreciate you having me on. And anytime I can help, you just yell.
What a wonderful thing to say. God bless you, brother. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I'll be honest with you, that was one of the guys I've always wanted to sit and talk with, and I am thrilled. I just can't say enough. What a great way to end the year, Denny. If you're still listening, God bless you, brother. I really, really do appreciate that. What a great time. Just a great, great guy. I want to thank all of you for watching us again tonight. I want to thank, before we go, from Cast King right here. If you're interested in anything from Cast King right there, make sure you go. And they've got some great sales going on right now. Go to Cast King, and if you put in the code JC52AFF, you will get 20% off of anything and everything there at Cast King. So make sure you go there. Dakota Lithium batteries also having a great Christmas sale. Get over to Dakota Lithium. Those are the batteries that I have used for several years now. I love them. I love them. They're dependable. Period. That's it. They're dependable. And you got 11-year warranty on them too. Put in the code SlickFish10 to get a deal. Once you get lithium batteries, you're not going back, and you're going to go with the industry leader, and that is Dakota Lithium. Make sure you check them out. Also, my friends at Lure Parts Online, there's a code right there, JC Outdoors 10B. we're going to be doing a little live here next week where, or you'll see some videos out there talking about a new jig that we have. We're going to show you that out there. I'm going to do a little video on it to make sure you have it. We have a couple more comments coming in. Nicholas Miller just got the new Kestrel Elite BFS reel. That away, Nicholas, you're going to love that thing. And that's got a ton of power for its size. You are going to love that reel. I've got both the bait casting and the spinning, both of them phenomenal reels. You are going to love it. Nick, thanks for letting us know about that. So what else? So we got that code right there. So there, that is that. This was kind of our Christmas special. We wouldn't have a show if it wasn't for all of you. So we're extremely grateful to all of you. A couple more comments before we leave. Can't wait to see you at the shows. Well, thank you, Ted. I can't wait to see you either. Rodney Hubbs, Merry Christmas. Well, Rodney, Merry Christmas to you as well. Have any questions or comments, you can always reach me at jim@jimcrowleyoutdoors.com. To all of you watching the show within earshot or see us, Merry Christmas. God bless all of you. I thank you so much for every one of you. You've made it an absolutely wonderful year on this show as it continues to grow. And I'm very appreciative for all of you. May you and your family enjoy the blessings of the Christmas season. I hope it's everything that you want and more. God bless you all. We will see you in the new year.